What's going on? It's your main man, Rick the Dawn. Yeah, man, am I happy to be alive right now. Man, so, if you're here, what you should expect from this episode is a full recap of the latest episode, Sunday's episode. And then also, you should expect some great commentary from the amazing people who join me on my live streams. And you should expect some BB talk, all right? And I want to definitely have that. Before we get started, a couple things. First off, a quick moment of silence for the individuals who lost their life on September 11th. All right, moment of silence. Yes, sir. All right. And then also, this episode is brought to you by the Really Hood Podcast. That is my podcast. You can hear it anywhere and everywhere. Also, it's brought to you by wordy.com. It is my social media platform. And it is also brought to you by brokenheartshirts.com, where you can find really cool custom gear like the stuff I have on right now. All right. So shout out to the amazing people who have been rocking with me the entire season. Jason Lowe, Tim, Robin, Diva 313, all those amazing people who kick it with me. But this episode starts off with Brittany, who is distraught over Michael's comments. Now, we saw a little bit of this in the last episode when Michael leaves the house. He just goes in on Brittany and her weak gameplay and the secret conversations and the fact that she's pretty much playing both sides of the house. Brittany is visibly troubled by these comments. Okay. Turner talks about not wanting to eliminate a LGBTQ member. So this definitely happens where they cut to Turner's diary room confessions, and he does point out that he does not or did not or doesn't like the idea of eliminating a LGBTQ member. Now, in the Facebook groups, there's been a lot of talk about what Taylor said in terms of not wanting to eliminate a black woman. You hear a lot of that stuff. I wonder if Turner will get some of the same kickback about this particular bias. I'm not sure that it will happen, but I did note that Michael admits that Michael what Monty admits that Michael was the original plan. Wait, what? Okay, I had a moment here. So I got Michael admits that Michael was the original plan. I'm not sure who the first Michael was supposed to be. I'm going to go with perhaps Turner or Monty admits that Michael was the. I'm going to just cross that out. I have no idea. If you don't know, I drink wine when I watch the game. That's a wine moment. Anyway, Turner originally wanted to target Britt because she has deals throughout the house. So if you don't know, this episode does an amazing job at recapping the events that took place during the double eviction. And Turner does point out that Brittany was the original plan. He notes some very important things that should be considered. The fact that Brittany has Mike or had Michael, and also the fact that she is pretty clean in terms of blood on her hands. She doesn't have much blood on her hands. She's a really nice person. She actually could be very dangerous come the end of the game. Okay. So anyway, targeting Michael was Monty's idea. So I did want to clarify this. I did see a lot of people give Turner more credit than he deserved for this Michael hit, because it was like a hit. It was like a mafia style hit. The way that Michael was taken out was like it was Soprano esque. All right, and I want to make sure I clarify my position on this move. To me, all right, Monty should get the credit for the move. Like I said, Turner originally targeted Brittany, whereas Monty was the one who came in and really started to push the buttons that eventually led to Michael being evicted. Now, when you watch the edited version of that episode, the double eviction episode, you have no idea how many conversations took place. And I have to just call a spade a spade. What is it? Monty made a terrible judgment call. If you don't know, Monty tells Michael he's the target, and I think he does that as a act of respect. I cannot say how bad of a move that was, in my opinion. My wife and I were watching the show, and even she hasn't been watching as attentively as I have, and even she knows that. Like, why would he tell Michael? Like, I get it, you're trying to save face, and according to Monty, he just feels like he owes him that bit of respect. But in a game for $750,000, man, you got to get rid of some of the moral stuff. It's like, look, And you know, a lot of people got upset with Kyle for revealing the leftovers. A lot of people got upset when Michael twisted Kyle's words. And I also share a little of that pie when it comes to being upset about some of those moves. But the fact of the matter is this, ladies and gentlemen, this is a strategic game that's for life-changing money. So no, I don't think that you should play by the code of real life. And Monty telling Michael that he was the target on double eviction, in my opinion, was a terrible move. And I also saw Michael absolutely livid. I didn't know he was that upset. He lashes out well before you see him lash out on the edited version of the show. All right, so all that stuff takes place. And I'm just saying to myself, Monty, not this time. Don't do it right now. That's not necessary. I get what you're trying to do. You're trying to save face. Bad call, in my opinion. Michael tells Monty, "What jury votes do I have?" This was a funny part in the episode for me because once Monty does reveal his plan to put, or I should say, take down someone, in which Turner would replace that person with Michael. Once that happens, Michael confides in Monty in a way that was really interesting. He says, "What jury votes do I have?" I do like Monty's response because he keeps it 100 with him. He says, "Look, man, you got everybody's vote." And I don't think Michael is that naive to think that he had no votes in jury. There's no way that he was that naive. I think he was just trying to save himself. But you know, it was funny on the account that look, Michael, everybody is going to vote for you. There is no one who is a threat to your game, and that happened in this episode. All right, Brittany is 100% on board with Michael's backdoor. This upset me in this episode because if you watch the beginning of the current episode that just aired, Brittany's distraught. She's crying. If you watch some of the stuff that happened on the last episode on Thursday's double eviction, Brittany is upset and crying, and you feel like, you know, you feel bad. But then there's moments in this episode which reveal some of the backdoor information in which Brittany is 100% okay with the backdooring of Michael. And you can't help but ask yourself, hey, so Brittany, help me out with this one. You are okay with Michael going home. But when Michael, you know, for all intents and purposes, berates you and also, you know, gets a little personal, you cry about it. I mean, look, you can't stop your emotions from happening, but the fact of the matter is, Brittany should be okay. I mean, not okay, but she should expect something, okay? Because, and I should say, maybe she'll feel this way later, but the fact that Brittany is okay with Michael's departure and she's like visibly okay with it. They come to her and say, "Hey, you know, Michael's going up." She's like, "Oh, okay, I'm okay with it." It's like, wait a minute, Brittany, that was your ride or die. That was your best friend. So what I'm saying is, I will not be manipulated into thinking that Brittany is the victim here. Okay, that's what I'm trying to get out. I'm trying to verbalize. Brittany is not the victim here. In fact, she's the beneficiary. The fact that Monty and Turner target Michael instead of Brittany, look, she's the beneficiary. And I don't feel bad for Brittany despite all the tears. And maybe she wouldn't want me to. But the point is, she was totally okay with Michael going home in a backdoor situation. Monty tells Taylor, "You still got me." This was also very surprising in this episode because Monty and Taylor have a moment. And Monty verbalizes to Taylor that "you still got me," which was very surprising for me as a viewer because I had not really seen those two in this manner. All right. I didn't really see that moment taking place. You know, from the beginning of the game, Monty had been very, very vocal about the fact that he wanted Taylor out the game. So to see that relationship come full circle was interesting for me. All right. And I also felt very, very happy to see two black players this far in the game working together. And I know that sounds racist, but so what? I am happy to see that. Okay, I didn't get upset with Kyle's terminology and wording and white. I didn't get upset with that because you know what? You know that's his prerogative. But I was happy to see that, and I also asked myself internally, did the cookout make these type of moments possible? All right, because I don't know if you've ever seen Big Brother over the past 10, 20 years. The black players always lead first, and some of it is due to their own bad gameplay, and I'll say that confidently. But I do think the cookout have created a revolutionary or revolutionary grounds for black players, and it was great to see those two this far in the game and also appearing to work together. That was awesome to see. Okay, Michael trashes Brittany, says she lied about her profession. This was surprising. Okay, so Michael, on his just lashing of Brittany, just pretty much lets the world know everything that what Brittany is about. He says she lied about her profession, which is insane. We know that Brittany is a hypnotherapist, and that is not something you want to be in the Big Brother house. I mean, you tell somebody you hypnotize people for a living, that might not go over well. But it also makes me wonder why Brittany didn't turn the tables on Michael and say, hey, he's an attorney. Perhaps it could have been that Michael never revealed that. I don't know for sure. But anyway, Alyssa seems turned off by Michael's words. So Michael flips a lot of things on Brittany in hopes that maybe he'll garner some votes and some respect and a last ditch effort to save himself. But what he does is he pretty much turns people off because people like Alyssa know that if you're willing to turn on Brittany, then there's nothing there that I can really latch on to. I mean, you've been with Brittany for the entire game, yet here you are, voicing and verbalizing negative things towards her. So what chance do I have? That's what I think Alyssa is trying to get at when she says that. Michael calls out Turner for using LGBTQ for leverage. This was interesting as well. So once Michael pretty much sees his tombstone, he really just diverges into a weird style of gameplay that you've never seen from Michael. He pretty much is all war. He doesn't care about strategy at this point. He is, it's like someone knowing that they're going to leave and they want to make sure that their impact last after their passing or whatever, after their eviction. And he goes off on Turner and just says, hey, how can you use the LGBTQ brand or whatever you want to call it as leverage? You told me you would never vote someone of this caliber out. And Turner is trying to find the words to combat what Michael was alleging, but I don't know how it works out. Okay. Alyssa proposes final three with Monty and Turner. So at this point in the episode, Alyssa kind of figures it out. She realizes that, hey, I'm going to be here. I'm not going anywhere. And she also proposes a final three with Monty and Turner. And this was very interesting. And they seem to be very, or I should say, moderately susceptible to the idea. And this is pretty much the theme of this episode. Is Alyssa the sleeping giant that everyone should fear? And look, Alyssa has been someone I've been verbally against. I didn't like her gameplay. I've trashed her gameplay the entire season. I mean, I'll be honest, I'll own that. I didn't like the fact that someone could be in a showmance the entire time and then, at some point wake up and want to start playing the game of Big Brother. But I have to call a spade a spade. And I have to say that Alyssa, at least in the last two episodes, has surprised me just a little bit. And it makes me wonder, is she the biggest threat in the game right now? And I'll get to more of that later, okay? But to see her propose a final three with Monty and Taylor lets me know that she is officially playing the game. All right. Taylor eyes Turner because of three HOHs. So another thing we find out in this episode is that Turner is now the new Michael. Turner is someone that everyone fears. And I knew that was a possibility. And I also stated that I thought that Turner and Monty taking Michael out was maybe a little preemptive because, what happens is when you get rid of a big threat, the next big threat becomes the big threat. And Turner had to know. And also, I would argue that Monty should have known that if Michael is not in the game, guess who becomes the biggest threat? It's you, right? And Taylor eyes, or at least verbalizes, that she is completely after Turner at this point, and it's no surprise. Okay, Brittany is distraught and says she's next. So Brittany, at this point, is starting to come to the realization that because Michael was out of the game, that pretty much leaves her exposed, and she's absolutely afraid. She's still bawling, she's still distraught, she's still crying, and she realizes that now she has to play the game for herself. So that was interesting to see. Okay. Brittany hears Turner's pitch, but has Turner in her crosshairs because he's targeted her three times. So once Michael was evicted, Turner is going around and he's pretty much trying to do some damage control because he is the orchestrator behind the Michael eviction. He knows he has to talk to Brittany, but I'm not sure how effective that conversation is because Brittany notes something that I didn't realize. She notes the fact that Turner has been at HOH three times, which I did know, but she also points out the fact that in all three of Turner's HOH reigns, Brittany was a target in one way or another. So she is absolutely not on board with any decision that Turner might have going forward. And that's a second person who is absolutely against Turner. And it makes me wonder, it makes me think to myself, hey, how long does Turner last? I mean, he's made a, or I should say, he's done a great job on making it this far in the game. But with at least two of the five players remaining in the game targeting him, how long does he have? Like I said, he's the new Michael, in my opinion. All right. Anyway, Alyssa and Brittany have a moment. Alyssa encourages Brittany to get her head back into the game. As I've stated before, Alyssa is starting to make her rounds in the house. She's starting to behave in a way that a winner would. Okay, look, I know a lot of people don't like Alyssa. I get it. But the fact of the matter is this: she's made it to top five, which is something that should be appreciated. And, in this moment, her and Brittany have some time to discuss the latest eviction. And Alyssa does something that, in my opinion, definitely puts her in a great space. She starts to encourage Brittany, who's very emotional. When you're talking to an emotional person, you have to realize that, they pretty much sway with every sentence that's deliberated. And Alyssa tells Brittany one of the most encouraging things you can tell someone who's emotional. Hey, get yourself back in the game. And when Brittany hears that, you see her prop up, you see her start to reorganize herself a little bit. And I thought to myself, I said, man, that's jury management. Even though Brittany is not in the jury, once she does go, it's those kind of moments that will, still be there. People all often tell me that it's not, what you do to someone. It's not what you say to someone. It's how you make them feel that they'll remember. And in that moment, I realized that Alyssa is playing a different kind of game, and perhaps maybe unknowingly. All right, but anyway, we jump to the HOH competition. It is a horror themed competition, and I have to say, I've been waiting for this one. I've been very I actually forgot about this competition or competitions like this, but every season they have a competition where they they turn out the lights and the contestants must find their way in the dark. And this one was not bad at all. I have to say, I've been very vocal about some of the competitions. They've been pretty lackluster in my opinion. This one was pretty fun to see. And you have every player getting this phone call about there being some kind of person in the house, and they have to put a long 2x4 on each door to keep the person out. And I just thought that was a really cool concept, a really cool theme. And the fact that all the lights were out, you saw a lot of crashes and bumps. So it was really fun to watch. Anyway, Brittany goes first, and she notes that her target is Turner, like I've already stated. All right. And she does terribly in the competition. At least that's what it appears to be through the Big Brother edits. She does pretty terribly. And I would say that they show Brittany's entire run. And then for the other contestants, they start to give you sneaks and peeks and pieces here and there. But apparently they realized that Brittany's run was the most entertaining and also the most long or drawn out. So they show you the entire Brittany run, and you get to see that. It was pretty awesome to see. Okay, but anyway, then Monty goes. Monty knows he and Turner are the targets. So he does verbalize this. He uses this as motivation to finish the competition, and he points out the fact that now that Michael's out of the game, basically him and Turner are the new Michaels, right? And then Monty is terrified during his run. This was pretty surprising. You look at Monty and you think to yourself, he's a big, strong guy. There's no way he's going to be afraid during this competition, but the exact opposite happens. He's going through the competition and he's absolutely terrified. Big Brother did an amazing job at this competition in terms of having these different things throughout the room, having sound effects. Sound is one of the most terrifying things. When you watch a scary movie, it's usually the sound that impacts you the most. I mean, the visuals do a lot of damage in terms of your psyche, but it's really the sound that really does the work. And you hear sounds, you hear screaming, you got these smoke pipes that if you bump into a certain thing, smoke rushes out of them. Monty is terrified during his entire run, and it's hilarious to watch. All right, but anyway, then Taylor goes, and this was surprising for me. Taylor was so afraid of the competition. And you know what? I hate to say this, but if I'm in the Big Brother house and this is the next competition, my run would be more like Taylor's than anybody else's, any of the other contestants. Okay. Taylor quits mid-run. And I'm telling you, I'm someone who is not afraid of much, but I'm telling you, I would have probably quit as well. And not necessarily because of fear, but just because you got all the lights out and the task is daunting. You have to find six 2x4 carb, like six boards about this long in width, and then you have to find six doors in which to place these long wooded beams on, and then you have to find a switch to turn the lights on, and you have to do that in a timed competition. I would have just like, you know what? Look, I'm just gonna I'm gonna concede. There's no way that I'm gonna do this in some fast manner. I just would have gave up. Like here, whatever. Okay, and I think Taylor did a good job with that because guess what? What happens also is that she's not a threat this week. Nobody's looking at Taylor because she didn't have a good time. She's pretty much low in the cut. You don't want to win when you don't have to, and that is something that I'm learning about the game of Big Brother. You don't have to win everything, and Michael learned that the hard way. Okay, anyway, so Alyssa's run takes place and she gets lost. And this was surprising for me. I did not expect this to happen, but Alyssa is completely confused. She's trying to find all these different things, and she actually does a great job in boarding up the doors in a relatively fast manner. But because she loses count of how many of the doors are boarded, she ends up running in circles and trying to board a hidden door or something like that. So she doesn't quite realize the fact that she's already won, and all she has to do is turn the circuit breaker on and be done with the competition. She misses that completely. That was a big miss for her. But anyway, Alyssa, I should say, we eventually go into the what is it the Big Brother house. The competition is over, and they're looking at the times from every contestant. And I have to make a note of myself. I made a note. Alyssa looks absolutely beautiful in a red dress. I always give Taylor her dues when I see her walking around. She got the red dress on. She's absolutely beautiful. I've done that a few times, but I want to say Alyssa looks absolutely amazing. She looks like a warrior. She looks very beautiful. She has a red dress on, and she just looks like she's strong. She's no longer the dainty, the dainty girl that walks around the house who's chasing behind Kyle. She's no longer that. You can see a different type of strength on Alyssa, and I did make note of that in my notes. She looks very beautiful, very strong, and this is why I decided to make the theme of this episode about Alyssa, because I see something different in her. Anyway, Monty wins the HOH, and look, let's be real here. This is pretty much a two-person competition if we're only looking at the competitions. Monty and Turner, with the exception of possibly Taylor, should win out in terms of all HOH and veto competitions. And I I hear that also Brittany won the next veto, so maybe I've already condemned my entire theory here. But I would say with great certainty, at least for HOH competitions, I believe that it's a two to three person race. I'm not sure that I see Brittany or Alyssa winning much from this point forward. Now, for those who don't know, yes, I've seen that the veto competition takes place and Brittany wins the veto, but there's a caveat. The reason she wins the veto is because Monty does not wake up in time. So she didn't really go against the full house, and because Monty stays in the bed, or what, I haven't seen the details, I've just heard, because Monty stays in the bed, he doesn't get a chance to compete in the veto, which I was like, well, you don't wake the person up. Like, and is Monty that comfortable where he doesn't want to compete in the veto? Like, what was that about? But nevertheless, Brittany wins the veto according to the Big Brother streets. I don't have any confirmation of that. That's just what I'm hearing in the streets. Okay, anyway. All right, Brittany comes in second for HOH, which was very surprising. Again, this is another instant in which Brittany comes second, okay? And she has shown herself to be pretty decent, but she's also shown herself to be a career second place finisher. All right, and this is the second time I've seen her come really far in a competition only to fall in second place. And it makes you wonder, does Brittany make it to the finals and get in second place? Is that her fate in this game? It makes me wonder. Anyway, Monty reveals that his target is Brittany and that Alyssa may go up as a pawn. So once Monty is deemed the HOH, obviously everyone wants to have a conversation with Monty and see where his head is at. And who's the first person that they show come to the room? That's Alyssa. Again, that is why this episode is themed after Alyssa, because she's showing me something that I've been trying to see since the first week. Okay, when I first saw Alyssa, I thought to myself, okay, this is the hot blonde in the house. Okay, eye roll. You know what I mean? But and then she began to act out that role by getting in a show, man. She's like, here we go again. But she's shown something in these last few episodes, particularly this one, that's making me start to reconsider the fact that she could actually be the biggest threat in the house. All right, not because she's playing this amazing game, because she's winning competitions. Absolutely not. It's because of who's in the jury. All right, you got to think about it. You have Indy, you have Jasmine, you have Kyle. That's already three guaranteed votes. So at this moment, you have to make the assumption that Alyssa could arguably be one of the biggest threats in the game. And so that was interesting. But anyway, she goes to the HOH room to talk game with Monty. I'm talking about Alyssa here. And Monty does something that I was very surprised about. He says to Alyssa, look, I'm right now my target is Brittany. She has deals all over the house. She is definitely going to come after Monty and Turner as a result of the Michael elimination. So he pretty much gives Alyssa uh the spiel that you don't have anything to worry about. But he also notes that Alyssa may go up as a pawn. And it's at this point where I realized, like, Monty, this is the second time he's done this. Okay. When Michael is put up on the block, just moments before that, he tells Alyssa, like, you're safe. You're safe. You don't have to worry about anything. And I'm like, Monty, I'm not sure that you should be giving these type of assurances in a game like this. You don't say, hey, you're safe, unless that person is in your alliance. And he's done things like this throughout the season. Even when Taylor gives information to Monty, what does he do? He goes back to Paloma. Like, Monty I'm noticing a trend in his gameplay, and it is being too honest, and I would argue at the wrong moments. All right, I got Dr. Juwan here, and I said I was going to be more active with reading the comments. So Dr. Juwan says Alyssa should be feared because she can gain a lot of jury votes. Exactly my points, Dr. Juwan. Look, Alyssa had, first off, she shouldn't be in the game right now. Okay, she should not be in the game right now. The fact that she's been in the showmans, anybody and everyone knows that when you're dealing with a showmans, that one of those people have to go. All right, and for all intents and purposes, Kyle eliminated himself just due to bad gameplay in terms of revealing the leftovers alliance. That's when his game was over. I don't, as far as all the stuff that takes place after that, it's all just cherries on top. It's all icing on the cake. Kyle destroyed his game when he reveals the leftovers alliance. And that's it. That's how I feel about it. Then, and it's going to be very difficult to sway me left or right on that particular position. And so, with that being said, Alyssa shouldn't be in the game due to a showmance. And then also, she is, or I should say, to this point, she's been a massive floater. Look, I'm going to call a spade a fade. A spade. At this point, she's been a big floater. Her, Brittany, they just pretty much floated under some kind of other player. So for her to be this far in the game is insane. And now, and it's another question. Is Monty going to target Alyssa? If you're asking me who's the more dangerous player between Alyssa and Brittany, it's Alyssa to me. Who's going to vote for Brittany? Realistically, who's going to vote for Brittany? Michael. That's all I got. I don't think anybody else votes for Brittany, no matter who's sitting next to her. Nobody, no matter who. If you put Alyssa next to Brittany, do you know that Alyssa will absolutely demolish Brittany? So the fact that Monty has made it or verbalized or made it known that throughout the house he's targeting Brittany, like, that's like, what are you doing? No, that's just not a smart move, in my opinion. All right, Dr. Juwan says Kyle would also vote for Alyssa. Absolutely, Kyle is in love with Alyssa. Once he's put on the block and he's ultimately evicted, he tells Alyssa he loves her, even though she's like absolutely pushing him away due to the drama in the house and all that stuff. So I don't know. To me, Alyssa is head and shoulders the strongest player in the game, if you can believe that. That's my viewpoint. Yes, Monty and Turner have played better games, but we're not talking about who played a better game. Paul versus Josh should give you some insight about that. It's not about who plays the better game. Okay, that's the misconception of Big Brother. That's what got Michael evicted. That's what gets Janelle evicted every time she plays. It's not about who plays the most games, who wins the most competitions. Ultimately, in these type of games, even Survivor can be added here. It's all about the jury. It's all about the jury management. It's all about the speeches that you give the jury. It's all about the reasoning that you give the jury. That's what it ultimately boils down to. And I would say a very close second to jury management is relationships. And Alyssa has great relationships in the jury. She hasn't offended anyone. She hasn't targeted many people. According to everyone, she's been in the freaking alliance the whole time. So with or a showman. So she's been so in love, and yeah, Alyssa to me is the most dangerous player currently in the game. It's not Turner, who has three HOHs. It's not Monty, who's starting to build a really decent resume. It's not Taylor to me at this moment, who's had a great redemption story and a great uh, game arc. I love Taylor's story, which I think she would give Alyssa a good run for her money because they're both women, and I think that would eliminate that aspect where I think the women since the beginning of the game have made it very clear they want to stick together. So I think once it comes to jury, I would argue that all the women are going to vote for a woman should they see one across from them in those two seats. And I think when you eliminate that situation with Taylor being next to Alyssa, that's a good fight right there. But if you got Alyssa next to Monty, look, I think that's interesting for me. If you got Alyssa next to Turner, that's interesting because first off, Michael is he's going to be very upset with the fact that Turner made it to the end by backstabbing him, and then you got all the ladies who are going to pretty much put their vote on. Look, Alyssa is, in my opinion, all right this moment, and it could change in the next 5 minutes because again, I don't watch the live feeds. But it's my opinion that Alyssa is the strongest player in the game because of the current factors. She's a woman. Women have been trying. Look, women are on a warpath this season. You saw it in the first episode. Women they want this, okay? And I'm not even sure it matters if it's a black woman, a white woman, a Hispanic. I don't think that even matters. I just think the women want blood, their alpha blood. They want a woman to be the winner of this season. And look, I don't know, it's becoming, and then also the fact that Monty and Turner eliminate Michael, which I still stand behind the fact it was a bad move because by eliminating Michael, you do a couple bad things to your game. Number one, you give the women an advantage, a number advantage, which was not good, right? And then number two, by eliminating Michael, you obviously eliminate the biggest threat, which means now Monty and Turner are the biggest threat. But here I am. I'm going to the comments. Dr. Juwan says, I hope Alyssa survives and wins the next HOH and clip Monty or Turner. It would definitely benefit her case. Look, Alyssa, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that Alyssa has this great resume. She still has to make that big move because I would argue that if Alyssa is next to Taylor, she's going to have a fight on her hands because Taylor has the better resume. But I will say, whether unfair or fair, okay, if Alyssa is sitting next to Monty, and by the way, I had somebody who gave me a like. Thank you so much. I don't get a lot of those, so I appreciate that. But I think if Alyssa is on the block, or I should say the final, if Alyssa is in the finals with Turner or Monty, look, I know that they have all this stuff on their resume, but I've seen this before. I've seen a player with a great resume lose to someone who doesn't have one. Paul versus Josh is great evidence of that. Paul had, what was it? I want to say 8 competition wins. He had 3 HOHs and 5 vetoes. And guess what? Josh still beat him. So, sometimes the narrative of the season conquers all of the individual achievements. And Alyssa's looking really strong right now, and it could be, I could be the victim of BB editing, which is usually the case. But I will say that this is what I see in the game right now. All right. Anyway, Jenny Davis, how you doing, Jenny? I hope Taylor wins. Jenny, if you watch my last episode where I talk about who of the top 5 still has a great chance to win, then you know that my pick right now. First off, let me be very open about this. My 2 picks at the beginning of the season, which in my opinion are the most important picks, I picked Pooch and I picked Michael. None of those 2 are out. I really don't have a horse in the race, if I can be fair and I can be honest. However, because I'm still watching the game on a weekly basis, every time it airs, I'm going to say right now of the top 5, my pick is Taylor to win the game. But I'm starting to realize that Alyssa is the biggest threat to Taylor's game. Number one, again, the jury. Number 1, 2, and 3 is the jury. If it were not for this particular jury, I'm giving anybody a great shot. But I do think Indy, Jasmine, and Kyle, without any question, are going to put their votes on Alyssa, especially if she survived the leftovers, if she survived a showmance. And this also happened during Rachel's season. All right. Rachel had a showmance with Brandon. She was the number 1 threat from the beginning of the game, and she made it to the finals, and people felt that. Okay. So it's not about all this other stuff. And also, thank you for the likes. I got 3 likes here. I appreciate that. It's not about the resume. I'm starting to realize when it comes to these games. If you watch the last season of Survivor, someone who just was berated the entire season won the game, and it's because she superseded people's expectations, and that is a big factor to consider when it comes to these games. People have expectations. They look at Alyssa, they say she's a blonde, and she's a beach babe, and all this little stuff. All right, and it's like because of that stereotype, if she still gets to the end, she wins. They look at Taylor, they say she's a pageant queen, she's very vocal, she's emotional, all this stuff. And then when she gets to the finals, it's like, but she made it. And that's why I would argue that right now, the head and shoulders threats in the house are Alyssa and Taylor. Okay. It's not Monty and Turner because those are the traditional players that win Big Brother, right? Turner especially. And I don't know. I don't know that in this new woke era of CBS Big Brother, they're gonna they're gonna, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. I don't know. I'm still trying to figure this out myself. Okay. But anyway, John, what's up, John? John says, I like Alyssa. Look, I like Alyssa too. And I'm being honest here. I'm not gonna sit here and gaslight you. I'm just starting to come around on Alyssa. If you watch any other episode besides this one, you're gonna hear me just dog her out because the showman's thing didn't rub me the right way. The fact that she ditched Kyle and she didn't support him at all, despite him not being wrong in my opinion. Look, you know, Michael's an attorney, okay, and Brittany is the second in command when it comes to Michael. They twisted the man's words. They waited until the opportune time to bring up the information, and I still don't think it's a bad thing to want a white alliance because it wasn't a bad thing to see a black alliance dominate. And you know, the biggest difference here is that the Cookout were very vocal about the fact that it was a black alliance. They didn't even let another color in, so you just can't have a double standard like that. I'm never going to support a double standard. I'm going to always look at the game fairly. So for me, Alyssa has been someone who I've been very vocal in terms of my criticisms, but I like the fact that she's starting to turn into something different. And I like evolution. This game does that a lot. We saw a lot of players evolve. I seen Terrence evolve from a chauvinistic DJ to someone who made some big moves. He's the corporate who brought down the leftovers. You got to give him credit for that. I saw Taylor go from the bullied person to someone who survives and takes out all of her bullies. Okay, Taylor takes out every person who targeted her. You know, Pooch, Ameera, every single person, Daniel, Nicole, anybody who targeted her, even Terrence, she survives past those individuals. So I love story arcs, and I like the fact that Alyssa goes from a showman's to, you know, like I said, the quiet chick who lays on the hammock and just doesn't do much, to see her now, you know, doing some things that could potentially get her to win. I like it. All right. Anyway, let me see. Jenny asks, do you think Taylor would win over Alyssa? Jenny, that's a great question. And I think that's a great question. Jenny, I will say I would hope so. All right. Listen, I do realize that Taylor and Alyssa have played, you know, some people would argue they haven't played the best seasons. But when it comes to those two, if we remove all the different factors and biases, I would argue that Taylor played the better game. She has a HOH win, which is something that Alyssa has not captured. And also, Taylor has, you know, just been through a more, or I should say, a deeper emotional journey when it comes to the game than Alyssa. And I also think that Alyssa pretty much just kind of pushed the elevator button and just fast forwarded herself to the top five. Um, and though I do think she is a strong threat to win because of the jury, I don't necessarily think she's played a better game than Taylor. So I would hope that the Big Brother jury would call it a little more fairly. But again, that would be a heck of a finals for me. And I know that is probably odd to say because again, Big Brother has never had a black woman in the finals, and I would argue I've never seen a black woman versus another woman in the finals ever. Okay, so that would just by itself be monumental, and I'm all for a woman winning. I'm all for it because I just think that's a great accomplishment on the basis that this game has competitions, and inherently speaking, men have these gifts with strength and speed that naturally supersede that of the average woman. So to see a woman navigate through all of that is always something that I'm going to appreciate. Like I said, I saw, what was it, Rachel? Rachel got to the end and won. I'm not a big fan of Rachel. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you, but I still respect the fact that she got to the finals and won. Okay, so I'll say definitively, yeah, that's a tough one. I'm gonna say Taylor wins against Alyssa. I'm gonna say Taylor will win against Alyssa, but I'm not confident. But I'll say that, Jenny. All right, let me see here. Sharon, what's up, Sharon? Sharon says, I hope Alyssa go to jury house so she can see Kyle. Look, I hope so too. I do think she's the most terrifying player left in the game. I think that the house is making a huge mistake in allowing her to get to this point in the game. But look, I'm not gonna sit here and sugarcoat it. I'm not a big, I'm not the biggest fan of Alyssa. Overall, in terms of her entire story arc, I'm not the biggest fan. I just like to look at the game in a unbiased fashion, despite me not liking the player, despite me not necessarily liking their gameplay. I'm still going to call it how I see it. And right now, I think Alyssa is the biggest threat. That doesn't mean she's my favorite. It doesn't mean I don't want to see her leave. But I also will say that I don't know how she leaves when you still have a Monty and Turner in the house, unless they win out. Monty verbalizes the fact that Alyssa is a big threat. So you do hear that in this episode. All right. Jenny says, good. Thank you. How are you? I'm good, Jenny. I'm good. Thank you for joining me right now. Dr. Juwan says, my two winner picks were Monty and Nicole. So I'm hoping Monty pulls it out. I really am happy that you share that with me, Dr. Juwan. I do want to know everyone's initial picks. One of the biggest things I love to do every season is pick my favorites to win the game right off the bat. I think once you get information from the game, it becomes a little unfair. You have like these different things that kind of cue you in on who's going to be this or be that. So, right off of first impressions, I picked Pooch and Michael. And, obviously, with the exception of Pooch, Michael did a great job. So I was able to pick someone who was a competition monster who set records. So that makes me happy. At least I can have that as a contingency. But Pooch is obviously an epic fail. Look, Pooch, when you first see the kid, he has the silver eyes, he has the Italian stallion look. I'm like, if this guy just shuts his mouth and just coasts, like maybe like a Alyssa, this guy can go really far. But he opens up his mouth and he's like the biggest, tool bag that you can, it's like you can't. So yeah, that kind of went the wrong way. All right. John says, I'd be happy if Alyssa wins Big Brother. I'll be okay with it. I'll be okay with it because, like I said, I'm always gonna, and this is not just me pandering, but I'm okay with a woman winning Big Brother. I feel like I'm okay with it. I'll be happier if Taylor won it, to be honest with you. But if Alyssa were to win it, I wouldn't have any objections. At this point, I think before I was a little upset about it because I saw her just sleeping and showmancing and then dodging Kyle's. Like I was like, dude, really? But no, at this point, and I think I'm a human being and I'm emotionally swayed like everybody else. And I think as of right now, this could change apparently, but I think as of right now, I'm okay with Alyssa winning. And I didn't think I would say that. And that's why I do these episodes, and that's certainly why I do them live, to give people real and live reactions. So I will be okay with it. I would not at this moment. One player who I would not be okay with winning at this moment, because it could change. You never know. But at this moment, I would not be okay with Brittany winning under any circumstances. I just would not be. And I know that the Big Brother editors are certainly trying to sway me emotionally. They're starting to show her crying more. And like I said, she won the veto, so they're definitely about to give her the hero edit. But no, I'm just not buying right now. I'm not willing to buy that right now. Okay. All right. So Jenny says, "Do you believe that we have a good jury? Do you like the selection?" Ooh, that's a good question, Jenny. You throwing some good haymakers here. I would say no, we don't have a good jury. However, I'm okay with the jury. Why? Because these players this season, we probably all heard it. This season has some really interesting players. Some players who kind of fall below what we expected from a Big Brother cast. I think that's been the overall consensus. And giving that, I think a lot of these players are jury members just by default. I didn't see Joseph winning this game. I didn't see Terrence winning this game. I didn't see Jasmine winning this game. I didn't see Kyle winning this game. Believe it or not, I didn't see him winning. So, I mean, I guess they were jury members from the start, as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, I'm okay. I think the jury's okay. I think they were supposed to be jury members, right? I don't know. I don't think that they were going to be winners. And this season I would say that this season had a lot of jury members, from the start of the game. Like it's just like I didn't see when I watched the season, or I should say when I think back of the overall season, I didn't see anybody. I was like, that person is just besides a Michael or Michael or Turner, and now a Monty or a Taylor. So it's about 4 players. So I'm like, okay, those 4 are strong players. But for the most part, just overall watching the season, I thought everybody was pretty much a floater or jury member. Like, we can do without these people. That includes Alyssa. Like I said, Alyssa is now starting to grow on me, but that doesn't negate the entire season of me watching her just do much of nothing. And I would argue that she's a jury member unless she proves otherwise. You know what I mean? So yes, I'm okay with the selection. And the question, Jenny, I'll pose back is: do you think they'll be fair, or will they hold grudges? That's a big question because you got some big personalities in the jury, and I'm wondering to myself, how will they see the game? How will they call the game? And that's a big question that I'm still trying to figure out. All right, Dr. Jawan says my two winner picks were Monty and Nicole, so I'm hoping Monty pulls it out. Right, exactly, Monty. I think I read that one already, but Monty should win this season. I'm just gonna say he should win. He should win. I mean, he's played of the five players, and you can make an argument for Turner, obviously, but of the five players, Monty's played the best game. In terms of all around. Now Turner has three HOHs, but Monty took out the competition monster. And I always give that person a little more credit. Okay. That's how I do it. All right. Anyway, where am I at on this thing here? I got so many popping up on me. Um, I think I'm here where Jenny says, I used to be a big Turner fan, but with the way they treated Joseph at Dire Fest, that whole group out there, I have to agree with you, Jenny. That's about when I realized that I wasn't on board with Turner's game. That's when everything changed for me. I liked Turner up until Dire Fest. And I would say some of the respect I have for Turner, I gave to Terrence, if you can believe that. But the way that Turner behaved in Dire Fest, and even some of the episodes that happened afterwards, I would say that is where I start to realize that Turner was not the guy that I had pegged him to be. He definitely peaked for me when he takes up for Taylor. I just thought that was so amazing to see. You got this kid. He's probably the youngest person in the house, and he of everyone. That includes Daniel, Terrence, Monty. He of everyone sees the way that Taylor's being treated, and he decides to stand up. That's where Turner peaks for me. And it's not necessarily because Taylor is a black woman. It's just that the fact that he had the courage to do something of that caliber, it just gave me a lot of insight about who he was. And at that time, the Big Brother editors were not or was not giving Turner a lot of showtime. They wasn't really focusing on Turner. So to see that move come from that kid was very shocking for me. And that's where he peaks for me. But then Dire Fest shows me a little bit different. The way that they go after and terminate Joseph was not the best look for me. I was like, man, and it's gameplay, so I didn't hold it against Turner. But however, it did change how I felt about Turner moving forward. And I think the last week or so have also added to the fact that Turner has fallen out of grace for me just a little bit. All right, just a little bit. All right, here we go. John says, who do you think will get evicted this week? Great question, John. So right now, Brittany and Alyssa are on the block. I hear in the Big Brother streets, and I have no confirmation of this. I haven't seen any screenshots. And Monty being the HOH, I don't see him putting up Taylor. I just don't. And you have to know something. Monty has shown the ability to separate gameplay from emotion. All right, and this is why he puts up or takes this is why he orchestrates the move to take out Michael. So I'm going to say, John, definitively, I'm not sure how much I believe in myself. I'm going to say Turner goes home this week. Here's why: because if I should say, Brittany has won and does come down, he will have to replace that person with someone. This is going to show me how much Monty really likes Turner. All right, because if he's willing to sacrifice Taylor in space of Turner, that tells me a lot. That tells me that this relationship between these two guys is much deeper than I ever understood. But I'm going to make the argument that I'm sorry, Monty will come to his grips and say, "Hey, let's get Turner is a big threat as well, and he can actually beat Monty in the finals." In my opinion, I think it's an easy win. In fact, so I think Monty will replace Brittany with Turner, not Taylor, and Turner will ultimately go home because you have Brittany voting and you'll have I think it's a wait who's who'll be voting. It'll be Brittany and Taylor, right? Yeah, you'll have Taylor and Brittany voting, and I know Brittany's going to vote for Turner. And then as far as Taylor, she would probably also, yeah, she's also verbalized that she wants Turner out. So yeah, there you go. That's my answer, John. I think without question, you would have Turner go home this week because, and it really boils on Monty putting up either Turner or Taylor. So I would say between those two individuals, Will it be Taylor or Turner? One of those go home. But if I consider the game and I see the game and it's accurate how I see the game, Monty is going to replace Brittany with Turner, and Turner will have to somehow sway Brittany, who is very upset with him, and also sway Taylor, who has already vocalized that she doesn't want Turner to go any further. So I'm going to argue that Turner goes home this week, and at that point, yeah, anything goes. And this is how you get a Alyssa and Taylor final, because then Monty is the only man in the house. And you have to know, and because Monty is the HOH right now, matter of fact, I'm willing to give you my next two picks. I think Turner goes home this week. All right. And then because Monty has won the HOH, he doesn't have the ability to play in the next HOH. So between Alyssa, Brittany, and Taylor, one of those three would come to HOH. And who knows who will win between those three? Let's say Taylor wins. Taylor might be his only lifeline. I'm talking about Monty, but even that might not be a sure way to get to the end of the game, because even if Taylor wins, I don't see she's going to put up a list. She's going to put up Alyssa or Brittany against Monty, and at that point, you will have a woman voting between Monty and whoever is on the block next to him, and I think Monty goes home. So I think Turner's going to go this week, and then Monty's going to go home next week as a result of being, outnumbered. Well, women to men, and then you're going to have a 2-woman final. That's how I see the game at this point. Let me know if I'm wrong about that, but yeah, I'm pretty sure that's how it's going to play out. This is why getting rid of Michael might have been a little preemptive. It was probably too soon, but I can't blame them for targeting Michael. But I would say at this point, Turner's going to go home, and then it should. And it's crazy because I always make these predictions, and then something crazy flies out of left field, like Michael twisting Kyle's words, or it's always something weird, or Paloma leaving the game for mental health. Like, it's always something weird. I just knew Taylor was going, right? So there's no way to say definitively, but I'm saying if the game goes according to plan, Turner's going to go, and then Monty's going to go. That's it, because Monty can't play in the HOH. That's it. And then from there, it's a 3-woman race. That's how I see it. I'm back here. I see Jenny is asking. I think BB is making us like Alyssa now because, well, they are running out of people. Yeah. Look, I'll be the first one to say I am usually the victim of the edit because I don't watch the live feeds. I never see behind the screen, the Wizard of Oz veil. All right. I'm always the only person that's like, very naive and green about the show. And everybody's like, are you serious? Have you not seen the live feeds? No, the answer is always no, I haven't. So, yeah, I think I'm a victim of the moment. And certainly I'm talking crazy right now, most likely. All right, if I'm being true to myself. All right, Jazzy and I think it's Jazzy and Joelle. First off, welcome. What's up? Do you think Turner will stay loyal to Monty if Taylor goes to the jury? Monty over Alyssa. I don't think Turner can win next to Monty. Ooh, good question. You know what, Jazzy? One thing I can say is that Turner is playing a very interesting game. I'm going to say this, okay? I saw this last week. If it were not for Monty, guess what Turner was prepared to do? Turner was prepared to allow Michael to live another week. Turner was prepared to allow Michael to go past double eviction. And it depends on which side of the spectrum you sit on. Me, I can see it from both perspectives. You got to get Michael out the game. I get that. But also in getting Michael out, you completely clog up first place. Nobody's winning over Michael, and I do mean nobody, not even Turner. So I would say that Turner could be swayed. And I say that because he was willing to allow Michael to go further in the game, which some would argue was the dumbest move possible. So with that being said, despite Monty being such a huge threat, Turner might just be loyal enough to allow Monty to sit next to him in those final 2 seats. And it depends on who you ask. I mean, when it comes to Monty versus Turner in the final 2, which I don't think they're going to make it. I'm going to be honest with you, Jazz. I just don't see it from this vantage point. But I would love to see that. That'd be awesome. I think we can all agree that of the 5 players remaining, Monty and Turner have played the best games. If we're looking at competitions and HOHs and all that kind of stuff, I think you have to give it to those 2. But I would say that Turner would take Monty to the final for whatever reason. Turner has shown blind loyalty at times, and I don't think this is much different. And between those 2, it's a crapshoot. It just depends. When you look at the jury, you got Jasmine, Joseph. I think Monty beats Turner on the account that Turner muddied up his game with the Dire Fest week. So he's going to have Joseph gunning against him. He's going to have most likely Jasmine possibly voting against him. Terrence might still be a little sour against Turner for the way that he exited, because if you don't remember, Terrence and Turner were supposed to be in this new After Parties alliance. So the fact that Terrence is in the jury, and he's already made his threats to Michael and players like Monty and Turner and things of that nature. So I do, and you did see Terrence have that conversation with Monty just before he's eliminated. So I do think Monty can beat Turner based on the jury. I really do. I do think that. But in terms of America's favorite house guest, yeah, that's going to be between Turner and Taylor, I think, without question. All right. But as far as the game itself, I would definitely say that it will. I would see those two in the finals. I see Monty winning, and I also see Turner taking Monty. Just my personal opinion. All right. John says, I will see who wins veto. John, if you can confirm that, I've heard that Brittany wins. If anybody knows the definitive answer, that would be awesome. I don't have a clue whether or not that's true. And then Jenny says, I think Monty's going to put up Taylor instead of Turner and Brittany, and Turner will vote out Alyssa. So Monty will put up Taylor. Interesting. Okay, and I want to know why you think that, because I don't have live feed information. And then, okay, Brittany did win. Thank you, Jenny, for confirming that. So you think Monty will put up? I'm still trying to compute what you're saying. Monty is going to put up Taylor, and I need to know why you feel like that. In fact, if Brittany's won the veto, has that not been aired yet on the live feeds? It must not have. Instead of Turner, and Brittany and Turner will vote out Alyssa. So you think Brittany and Turner will vote? And this is like Brittany and Turner will vote out Alyssa over Taylor? Wow, that would be not. That's very possible, obviously, but to think that they would vote out Alyssa over Taylor. Okay, yeah, I can see that, because Alyssa's a freaking threat, but so is Taylor. Yeah, that'd be interesting. That'd be interesting. I use Joker's updates. Yeah. I don't, and that's why I need you here right now. All right. Anyway, I've completely got off task here. Monty notes Alyssa connections to the jury house. So Monty does verbalize in this show that Alyssa has great ties that could become an issue. All right. Brittany throws Alyssa under the bus. Monty isn't buying. So at one point after the competition is over, Brittany throws Alyssa under the bus, and just noting all of the connections that she has. So we can make the summary, or the summarization, that Brittany is playing a game that is, she just kind of goes with the flow a little bit. You saw that happen when she was having a conversation with Pooch in that little refrigerator room, that little storage room. She kind of just throws people under the bus when the time is opportune. Like, Brittany's a dangerous player as well. I don't think I can continue to understate her gameplay. She's pretty she's pretty dirty. She plays a dirty game in a lot of ways. The way that she was cool with Michael going out, the way that she was striking up final deals with Turner before Michael was out of the game, you can make a point that Brittany is playing the game despite not winning competitions and things like that. Anyway, Monty questions the threat level between Brittany and Alyssa. Great idea, Monty. You might want to start doing some research there, because as far as I can see in this game, Brittany no bigger threat than Alyssa. So Monty, no way. I should say Taylor wants Monty to test. You should use your HOH range to target Turner. He's the biggest threat remaining in the game. And I like how Monty handles this. He doesn't give Taylor any talking points, because we've seen this happen when Turner and Brittany have a conversation. They use the talking points in that conversation against one another. Brittany says target Michael, Turner says target Michael, and then they both go to Michael and say what each other said without confessing what they said. So you do see that, but I like the way that Monty handles the Taylor conversation. He doesn't say, "Hey, I'm okay with that. I'm down with that move." He says, "Look, I'm not targeting Turner, but if you want him out, you have to win the veto, and you have to make the move yourself and force my hand." So Monty had the conversation elegantly and very professionally. He definitely keeps himself safe of anyone being able to say that Monty is targeting Turner to Turner. And so I like the way he did that. All right. And then Monty says that he and Alyssa are getting closer after putting her up. So this was a ironic part of the show. Alyssa goes to talk to Monty, and during Monty's diary room confessions, he says, well, actually, no, this is not during the diary room confessions. He says this while he his nominations, his eviction nominations. So he puts up Alyssa and Brittany, and as he puts up these two people, he's trying to be as gentle as possible, and doing so when he puts up Alyssa, he says, "Hey, Alyssa, I put you up because whatever he said. And then he said something to the effect of, but I still feel like we're getting closer. I'm like, that's a horrible time to tell her that. But anyway, Brittany says that it's been rough, a rough couple of weeks. I'll say Brittany does note the fact as the episode concludes that it's been a rough couple of weeks. She's been in tears, probably more this week than she's been, and during the entire season. So she just lost Michael, and now she's on the block. She's been on the block for the last 2 nominations. So yeah, certainly Brittany's having a rough go with it. She may be able to turn that into sympathy during the jury situation, just saying, hey, I survived. Michael, this and that. Michael was evicted. I still made it. So that shows I've played my own game. So I think that's the angle that Brittany might want to utilize when she's trying to defend herself, because certainly, she does have a floater tag on her somewhere. I do think she's doing a better job at scrubbing it off, but I think her competition will certainly use that to their advantage. Anyway, Taylor wants Turner gone. So Taylor does verbalize once again as the episode concludes that she wants Turner out of the game. And who can blame her? I mean, he's the new Michael now. And then Turner is happy to see Brittany gone. That's the last notes I have. Turner does point out that he wants Brittany out of the game over Alyssa. So again, yeah. So Turner has, look, I like Turner. I think he has the look in terms of a BB winner. He's a decent fellow or whatnot. But when it comes to strategy, I do think there's a level of confusion there. He wants Brittany. Well, I say he's happy to see Brittany. He was cool with Michael staying. Man, I don't know. Turner, man, Alyssa is the big player here, without question. Without question. And also, but okay, wait, slow down, Rich, because the reason Turner may say those type of things because he knows that he's more than likely on Brittany's hit list. So there's the pushback against my own theory and statements. But that's where I stand on the game as of this moment. All right. I got one more comment here. Jenny says, do you think Brittany would have made it this far without Michael? That's a great question. And Jenny, I'm going to be honest with you. Here's why. Because Brittany doesn't really put herself in the middle of the game. You will see that most players who became the focal point got eliminated. Okay, Taylor was the focal point, but she didn't make herself the focal point. Michael put himself in the center of the game. Pooch put himself in the line of fire because he offered to go on the block. Daniel put himself in the middle of the game by just screaming at Taylor and doing things of that nature. Maybe Nicole is arguable. You can argue one way or the other. But a lot of players who left, they pretty much made themselves a focal point, and that is one thing that Brittany has not done. And I would say that sentiment is even greater emphasized considering the fact that she was right next to Michael, who is arguably one of the biggest players in the game, and still Brittany was not really talked about in terms of being a target. So she's been right next to the middle as a result of Michael, but still she's been low key enough where she wasn't a big focal point. So I think she does make it this far. But I think she does have less talking points in the jury or in the finals if it's not for Michael, because Michael did so amazing. She'll have this one thing that she can say. She can say, well, I was the one who told Michael to do this. I'm the one who told Michael to do that. That's what a lot of players who play Brittany's type of game do. They get to the finals with somebody that was a huge juggernaut, and then they say, I out-survived that person, and I gave them most of the ideas that they eventually orchestrated or pushed through. And they also say, Brittany may also say, I was able to deter Michael from making this decision. So I do think that she would have a lesser argument if she did not have Michael, but I do think she's still in the game right now. And I think the evidence of that is Alyssa still being in the game and Terrence just being eliminated last week. I think Brittany was destined to go after a Terrence. Okay, so if Terrence made it this far, I don't see any scenario where Brittany goes before Terrence. That's just my personal viewpoint of the game. I feel like if Brittany was going to leave the game, she should have left during the week that Pooch left, because Brittany reveals and plays a horrible game and revealing a lot of information to Pooch, in which Pooch could have easily just kind of flipped on Brittany. So if she didn't leave then it just wasn't a way for her to leave, as far as I'm concerned. I feel like she was just behind. That's an amazing question, if I can be honest. All right, Terrence has been saying for weeks that Alyssa has the jury votes. Exactly. And Terrence is 100% correct, which leads me to the theme of this episode. Is Alyssa the sleeping giant? She made it this far. Nobody's really looked her way. But, hey, if you look at the jury, it's perfectly aligned to give Alyssa the victory. And I don't know how the rest of the cast is seeing it, but certainly as a viewer of the game, that's the way it's coming across. But anyway, I'm going to conclude there. I appreciate everybody for kicking it with me. I'm going to do another episode where I look at what's going to take place moving forward. I did talk about a lot of that stuff here, but I want to kind of focus on it more so than I did in this episode. So I know it's late, so I'll say goodnight to most. But if you do want to have that conversation, I'll be back in about 10 minutes, and I'll see you soon. Peace.